So I'm Leanne Sherry. I'm a lecturer in microbiology in the School of Infection Immunity at the University of Glasgow, and I coordinate and teach on our microbiology programme within the university.
So my name's Nicola Veitch. I'm a Professor of Bioscience Education and Parasitology in the School of Infection and Immunity within the College of Medical, Veterinary and Life Sciences at the University of Glasgow, and I coordinate our microbiology degree programme.
So we're part of a bigger group, and our other co-recipients of this award are Dr. Stuart White and Dr. Vic Patterson, who are both senior lecturers in zoology, and they coordinate and teach on the animal biology programmes at the University of Glasgow. So I think our work breaks down to two areas within the wider equality, diversity, inclusion. So one of the parts is looking at decolonising the curriculum. So this really started with looking at colonial science and looking at colonialism, and looking at what we teach our students, who we're teaching them about, who produces our knowledge, and particularly what perspectives, whose voices are not being heard within that conversation, and bringing it into the curriculum to make sure it's a more inclusive curriculum that reflects our diverse student body within it. And part of this work is looking at the knowledge we're teaching. So for example, in microbiology, we're very it's prominent to talk about Robert Koch and his postulates, and we're very good at discussing his successes within the field, but maybe not so great at talking about other aspects of his work, his unethical work in particular in East Africa, looking at the treatment of trypanosomiasis. So it's making sure we're bringing all of that knowledge to the forefront and teaching our students about it.
The other part of the project that we've been working on is around embedding equality, diversity and inclusion principles into our curriculum, and we used a staff-student approach. So the staff members who have won the award worked with many students over the past few years to develop the curriculum and to embed what we call problem-based learning into our first and second year undergraduate life science courses. So that also includes microbiology and immunology students. And we've developed these problem-based learning sessions to try to get students to talk about EDI issues that may affect them moving through their career. We know that within higher education there are big issues around EDI, such as racism, for example. And so we feel that it's really important that our students are empowered to be able to understand the barriers they may face moving forward and how to break down those barriers. So that's what that side of the project was around. It started in 2019, and at that point, myself, Vic and Stuart were all co-chairs of our Athena Swan committee. So Athena Swan is a gender equality charter in higher education, and as a university, we have signed up to undertake the work relating to the charter, and we were working towards a bronze award within our department at the time. And we found out that there was some funding that the Wellcome Trust were going to give us, or to give the university, that was an infrastructure a Wellcome Trust award or grant, and some of those funds were kept for work around inequalities. And so we had applied for some of that funding, thinking that we could work with our students to develop EDI resources around and embed into our curriculum. So we did that at that point. We were successful in getting that funding, and we worked for over 2 years. And then during COVID, we were looking for different types of projects to give our students. So our students weren't able to go in the lab during COVID because everybody was at home. So at that point, we made the decision that we wanted to offer education type projects that were maybe slightly different from the ones that we were usually used to offering. We're used to offering projects that students went into schools, local schools, and did some teaching. And we decided to offer projects around EDI, but also around decolonising the curriculum at that time. So that's when Leanne and I got interested in decolonising the curriculum work. And again, working through staff-student partnerships, we developed that side of offering a research project, and we had some students who were really interested in it, and we've now worked with 4 different students since 2021, I think it was, in order to do those projects, and again created some really lovely resource with them that is now embedded into our curricula.
Approaching decolonising the curriculum is quite a challenge, I think, coming from a scientist, we're really used to looking at scientific data and presenting our work, whereas it takes a lot of time and effort to go back and really dissect our knowledge and where it's came from. And speaking with our colleagues at the university, they find it really challenging. They don't really know where to start. And I think one of the challenges is time, in order to give staff that time in order to do that. I think providing training and workshops with staff in particular and students about how to begin that process of starting to decolonise what our teaching, our research. So I think it really goes back to making sure there's a supportive environment, that people can reach out and ask for help, and there are no silly questions, I guess, in the area, and make sure they're supported in order to access the resources and tools to make sure they can make those changes.
I think EDI initiatives are incredibly important in academia because we clearly there's lots of evidence to suggest that there's a lot of discrimination in higher education. And every year we see that our student body is becoming more diverse. So we need to be more inclusive in our approach to what we're doing in terms of teaching, to make sure that students feel included in a classroom. They need to see that there's role models that they can relate to within the teaching material that we are putting out there. We need to make sure that we are having inclusive teaching practices in themselves, that students feel that they can be part of that teaching and learning community. So I see it as something that is essential to really, for the sector to move forward and to be successful. Yeah, it feels really amazing actually, and I think we feel highly privileged to have been awarded the prize. We've got some fantastic colleagues who nominated us, and we feel very proud of the fact that they did nominate us for this work. It's been a long project. It's been going on since about 2019, and it is ongoing. So I think we feel very privileged, and particularly because there was another project as well that won the prize, and that project was an incredible project. They gave a talk today, and fantastic work that they've done, and what they're doing is growing and growing. So it felt very privileged to have won the prize alongside them.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the Microbiology Society for awarding our team this prize. We feel very privileged to be here today. So I'm Nicola. Leanne is also here in the audience today, but unfortunately Vic and Stuart can't make it. But very much this has been a team project. The four of us have been working with students for quite a number of years now to develop these projects. So we have 15 students we've been working with over the years. So this award is very much for those students as well, and they really need to be acknowledged for the work that they've done. I'd like to also thank the individuals that nominated us for this award, and our close colleagues that nominated us, and we do really appreciate it. So I'm going to be talking a bit about the work that we've been doing around embedding EDI principles into our undergraduate bioscience curricula. And as I said, we've done this with students. It's very much been a staff-student partnership. So we know that there are many EDI challenges in higher education, and the previous group gave a really inspirational talk detailing some of those issues. In the UK in 2019, the issue of our students being racially harassed on university campuses came to light, with 25% of our Black and minority ethnic students being racially harassed while on campus. The University of Glasgow at that point did their own research and published their own report in 2021. And actually within the University of Glasgow, it was reported that 50% of our Black and minority ethnic students have been racially harassed, and often in more than one incidence. And very sadly, the majority don't choose to report it, and that was clearly for multiple very valid reasons. In addition to that, if we look across other protected characteristics, we know that STEM disciplines do provide less examples within our curricula around LGBTQ+ experiences in comparison to other subjects. We also know that students with disabilities do remain disadvantaged when we compare them to their peers. So many issues really for us to be considering, and we can't just consider them once, we've got to keep that journey going. So how have we approached this? What have we been doing? So really we've been working in two different streams. The first one has been about embedding EDI principles within our undergraduate curriculum. really developing learning and teaching material with students and embedding that in as the students move through their 4 years. In Scotland, we do a 4-year degree programme. We've also been doing some work around decolonising the curriculum, again, as staff-student partnerships, in a slightly different way, and I'll talk to you a bit about that today. Really looking to raise awareness of what decolonising the curricula is, and examining where our knowledge has come from historically, and who is credited with those findings. So at the University of Glasgow, we've been very fortunate because our learning and teaching strategy has supported us in both of our endeavours around these projects, and certainly has funded quite a lot of the work that we have done. So I'm going to first of all tell you a bit about the Equality and Diversity project that we've been working on. So really there has been 3 key aims. The first one has been to raise awareness of EDI issues that our students might face within the life sciences at university, but also within the career, whatever career they choose to go on to do. We want to equip our students with tools to be able to overcome some of the barriers that they themselves might face, but also barriers that they may see in other people, that they could support other people to get through whatever they're experiencing. And again, those barriers may come up while at university, but also within the career that they choose. So also many of our students want to go on to do research degrees, so PhDs, and we know that there's a lot of inequity in terms of who gets PhDs internationally. And so we wanted to really kind of let our students know about opportunities that are available to them, what barriers they may face, and how they can break those barriers down. So what's the approach that we've taken? So we took a staff-student co-curriculum design approach, and we wanted to embed tutorials and problem-based learning within our first and our second year biology courses. So in our first and our second year biology courses, we have about 1,000 biology students. So we can really reach a number of students taking this approach. And we wanted the resource to really cover the different protected characteristics that there are within the Equality Act, such as age, race, sex, and disability. And what we do is we give our students authentic case studies. We ask our students to look at those case studies, work through them themselves and answer a series of questions, and then come together and really within a group break down those problems, try to highlight any issues they see coming out of the case study, and that really allows our students to learn and dig deep into the material. So we give our students a variety of resources to be able to do this, and we see our students coming in and having some really open, honest discussions about EDI issues that quite often affect the students in the group. And certainly we can see that our students are quite happy to sit and discuss some of these really quite openly sometimes, which is fantastic to see. So we have used a problem-based learning approach in itself because it encourages active learning, encourages participation. So within itself, that is an inclusive educational strategy. So we know off the back of some scholarship work that we've done around this work we've been doing that students have been significantly and positively affected by this work, and quite a few students have noted that they now know how and where to report discrimination, both that they might face at the University of Glasgow, but what they also might face when they are within a career, or some of them have part-time work or summer placements and so on. So this work really is having an effect on our students. So I wanted to show some of the resources that our students have developed, so the problem-based case studies that I've mentioned, and that's very much linked into quizzes that have been developed and tasks that we get the students to undertake. We give the students a series of questions and they have to go away and do independent research, so really engaging with that material before they come into the class to discuss it. We give them various links, but we very much encourage them to come and find their own resources as well, and many of them do, and that's a really interesting journey for them. We also have our students sign a code of conduct before they come into these sessions, and that's a very important part of the work we've been doing. We encourage our students to use inclusive language, to use active listening skills, and make sure that they are really aware of the environment that they're in. And if people are talking about things that they're unsure of, we ask them to really call these people into conversations so they can really maximize their learning. And that's been a really effective tool for our students. We also have information videos our students can look at that tell them, for example, about the different types of discrimination that they might experience and what to do about that. We have a glossary of the very basic terms. Many of our students say, I just don't know what that word means. So we have a glossary of terms that the students can access. And one thing that was a really nice part of this project was our students who were working as interns at the time with us went out and they interviewed individuals as role models, people they'd seen in conferences, EDI conferences, who they found to be inspirational, who had perhaps had barriers within their own lives and their own careers, and these individuals were happy to speak to our students, and we've got some nice role model videos available for our students to see. Really very inspirational, some of these videos. So I wanted to show you an example of one of the case studies that we've created and that we ask our students to look through and discuss, just to give you a feel for what this material looks like. So this study was around the protected characteristic of race. We have an international student at the university from Botswana. They're doing a degree in immunology. And in their final year, they're doing a research project on malaria. And the PI that they're working with suggests that the student might consider a PhD because they're doing incredibly well in terms of the research that they've undertaken. So within the case study, the student goes through a series of different emotions and considers challenges that they're facing with this proposal. They're very much affected by imposter syndrome, as many academics are, and it turns out that many of our students are affected by imposter syndrome too. The case study really highlights the importance of role models. So this student, international student, says that they can't see any role models. There are no visible role models within the department that they're in. And they talk about role models and the importance of that within career choices. So we get our students to really talk about this when they're around the table. We ask them to consider their own role models. Who are their role models? And really consider why that is the case. We also ask them to discuss the underrepresentation of BME individuals within academic positions in higher education institutes. So there's lots within these case studies that we have to unpack, and students do really feel comfortable within these teams of people to sit and discuss these challenges that individuals are facing. So within a group, we usually have a graduate teaching assistant, so a PhD student, or a member of staff that are facilitating these conversations, certainly not leading them. They're very much led by the students. But we just sit and slowly guide them if they're missing some key concepts and so on. So how have we pulled all these resources together? So we've actually created a mobile app that's freely available, and I have got a bit of a shameless plug for you up there. Please feel free to download it. It's available on all the commercial stores. You can download this and access all of the different case studies that we have. So we've developed 11 case studies now around many different protected characteristics, and we have associated all the different resources with the app, so all of it is freely available and it's quite interactive. So we've really done this for two purposes. The first purpose is we have many students that commute at the University of Glasgow. We have students who commute up to about an hour to get into university. So we felt that having a mobile app was going to be very convenient for them to be able to access this material as they're coming into class. In addition, this means that people really out with the university can access the material. And if anybody is interested in integrating it into any of their curricula, please get in touch, because we have facilitators' notes, so notes that staff use as we're guiding the students through these questions. The team are very happy, Leanne and I who are here today are very happy to chat to anyone who's interested in that. So I want to move on to talk about the decolonising the curricula work that we do. What is decolonising the curricula? First of all, many of you will be engaged with this work, but I know some people are still unsure about what it means. It's really all about identifying, acknowledging and challenging the ways in which colonialism and global hierarchies have impacted on our learning and our knowledge and our teaching. It certainly isn't about removing knowledge, and we haven't done that within our curriculum. It's about considering our knowledge and really making our curricula more inclusive for our student cohorts. So we used a slightly different approach for the last project. We had internships, so we hired interns over a 2-year period who contributed to all of the different work that I've just talked about. For these decolonising the curriculum projects, we have final year project students. So in our final year, our project students, so microbiology and immunology project students, can undertake a decolonising the curriculum project. They can do that, or they can do the more traditional types of projects such as lab-based projects or dissertations or bioinformatics projects and so on. We do have an education strand that our decolonising projects sit within. So really they have aims, very kind of structured aims around these projects. The students, first of all, have to research the topics that are relevant to their own degree. So if it's a microbiology student, that's the field that they're looking in. And they're really looking at colonialism and racial inequalities within their own curriculum. Once they've done that, and that does take them quite a long time to get to grips with that literature, because it's really quite different literature than they've been used to looking at throughout their scientific degree, we get them to develop teaching resources. Commonly, these are tutorials that the students develop, and then they have to deliver these tutorials to students. So as their final year students, they usually examine their 3rd year curriculum, which is specific to whatever field they've chosen to move into in terms of their degree. So once they've delivered these resources and they have moved through that, because that can be quite a challenging time for our students, they evaluate the impact by getting feedback from students, but also from staff, because what happens post these projects, and a nice fallout from this, is that staff will take on these tutorials and embed it into their curriculum moving forward. So really we're increasing staff awareness of decolonising as well as students. And our students have been asking questions like, where does our knowledge come from? Have our research projects and methods historically been ethical? Who is credited with findings when they're doing a scientific study? And why? Why are the outcomes the way they are? So we've had a number of students selecting these projects. We've had 4 in total over the past few years. Leanne and I have acted as supervisors for these students. Many of the students really engage with these types of projects. They've self-selected. So these are students who are interested in this area. And they have developed case studies that then form tutorials on some of them on unethical experimentations on historically marginalised groups. Examples of that would be the Tuskegee syphilis study in the US, and also Robert Koch's trypanosomiasis medical concentration camps in East Africa in the early 1900s. Students have also looked into who is credited with scientific findings, and really they've really found some incredibly interesting historical stories that they then bring into tutorials. So one around smallpox, variolation and vaccination in the UK. And most recently, I had a human biology student last year who looked into Yaw's disease and syphilis during the slave trade. And I've got a few of her slides here to show you the type of material that she developed. And again, these students have all created content warnings and codes of conduct. So how students should really behave when they're in these tutorials actively discussing these very sensitive topics. So Georgia Sutcliffe last year was a final year student in human biology and became really very interested in disease during the transatlantic slave trade. Glasgow was obviously involved in the transatlantic slave trade, so a lot of the research that she had done was on Glasgow's involvement. Again, incredibly interesting work that she was uncovering. So syphilis and Yaw's disease were 2 diseases that were prevalent during this time, and both enslaved individuals and European colonists were affected. So the student really starts this work and this tutorial by telling the students about the diseases themselves, which again is interesting, is linking in the biology and the science as part of this tutorial. And this student, as part of her work, came across really interesting letters that were stored in the University of Glasgow archive. And she called this the case study of the unnamed doctor. She found a series of letters from a Scottish plantation owner called A.J. Alexander to Sir Joseph Black. And Sir Joseph Black was a chemist in the 1700s at Glasgow University. And they're discussing treatments administered by an unnamed enslaved man and also a British physician. So it was really quite an incredible find. I certainly didn't know that these letters existed. It was my student who was really pushing this research project forward. And in these letters, they discussed two different approaches. So an enslaved man was using plant extracts and successfully treated the disease. There are references to two different types of plants they were using. The British physician was using mercury and toxic compounds to treat, often unsuccessfully, to treat these diseases. And the student raises the question, why do we know this account, but nothing of the enslaved man's identity? And notes that by neglecting this information, Alexander removes the knowledge from its origin, thus removing power from its originator. And much of the work that she did really was inspired by a book called Secret Cures of Slaves, written by Scheibinger. So our students are really engaged in this work, and they have created a series of case studies that now we have managed to embed into our curriculum and we use on a yearly basis. So in terms of outcomes and future of the work, we have found that working with students has been incredibly empowering and has really managed to develop a huge number of teaching resources that we've been able to use. I feel that staff and students have really engaged with this work, and I really feel it's an incredible source and wealth of information for staff to be able to work with our students and then go on to integrate that into the curriculum. I think in science it can be very challenging to develop ways to discuss social inequalities, and I think we've managed to do this in this context. So what's our plan for the future? We can still continue to do what we're doing. Each year we invite students to be part of the work around decolonising, and they self-select to do that if they wish to. We are working in collaboration with external partners. Other universities have now embedded some of this into their own curricula and have been using it, which is fantastic for us to see. And we have our Equality and Diversity app, which is being used around the world, and we can see that. Is it going to switch? Yes, there we go. Third time lucky. Okay, so loads of people to thank. First of all, thanks to the Wellcome Trust for funding the work. So they funded our 2-year work with our interns. We had 6 interns funded through the Wellcome Trust. That was through an infrastructure grant that was specifically set aside for inequalities work. We also have been funded through the Learning and Teaching Development Fund at the University of Glasgow for another 2 years and had 4 other interns working alongside us doing that. We have a whole host of students to thank, interns and final year students who have worked with us and really also deserve recognition for this award. Content development for all the things we've been doing, and we've had a thank you to everybody who's been involved in that. We had real experts in the field working on that with us, which was fantastic for us, and lots of support for online content. And just to say once again, thank you very much to the Microbiology Society for the award. Really appreciate it. The team really appreciates it, so thank you.